All right, what's up, everybody? This is Allie from Stoop Garden on Instagram, or you may be checking in from Green Lady Green Arts. I'm managing 2 screens at the moment, so sorry if it seems like I'm not looking at you. But I just wanted to do a preview today and show you a little bit of a trick or like some skills practice for the scrunchie workshop that I'm doing on Monday, Martin Luther King Day, at 2 p.m. And it'll be, I'm going to try to do it live on Instagram. But also, if you sign up, I will send you a link to get into like the class. I'm using a platform called Jitsi instead of Zoom. It's nothing, you don't have to download it. It just sits in your browser. So it's a little easier to access, and we can Q&A and do all that fun stuff. And it's just a little bit more of a secure platform than Zoom is. So if you are interested in that and you want to make scrunchies with me and learn some basic hand sewing skills, get in touch with me. You can send me a DM on Instagram. That's stoopxgarden, all one word. Or you can email me, contact@greenarts.shop. Or whatever, wherever you're finding this, like leave a comment, send me an email. And I will make sure you get the link for the class on Jitsi. So, honestly, it's been like more than 20 years since I've made scrunchies, but they are super fun, and it's a really, it's a good like beginner sewing project. So I thought that would be fun. If you do the class, if you want to do the class with me and you're in the greater Hartford area, if you need supplies, if you don't have supplies for hand sewing, or you can't like borrow them from somebody, just put that in your note to me, because I will like drop off a supply kit for you. So I want to make sure that everybody who wants to participate can. All right, so I have my fabric prepared for my scrunchie. This one's a little bit longer than the one that I recommend, but we'll talk about like sizes and dimensions and what things look like. So, but this is about like 20 inches long by 4 or 5 inches wide. So anything within that range will work. So don't worry too much if it's not precise. And then I have my needle and thread. I'm using a really big needle and embroidery floss just so that it's like more visible on the screen. And it's contrasting. Probably for your scrunchie project, you want to use like a normal hand sewing needle and thread that matches your fabric. But you don't have to, contrast is okay. It's going to be mostly hidden anyway. So again, like don't let that stop you from just trying this out. So my needle is threaded. I'm going to put a little knot as close to the end as I can. And you can trim the tail off now if you want to, or you can do it later. And then with your fabric, all like the fabric that I'm giving in the supply kits and this fabric that I'm using has a print. So in sewing terms, that means like the print side is the right side or the face, and the other side is like the wrong side, or the back, however you want to refer to it just so you know, like there is like a right side and a wrong side. And usually when you're sewing, you're going to see a lot of times that we're putting the faces of the fabric together to work on it. And that way, when we like open up the seams or whatever, that seam is hidden. So that's how you get like a nice clean finish. So for your scrunchie, you're going to take your fabric with the print side or the face, and you're going to do like a hot dog fold. If you've done paper folding crafts or origami, you might recognize that term. So you're basically just going to fold it in half the long way. You don't really want to iron it because you don't want a crease in it. But if you are using kind of like regular quilting fabric, if you just kind of smooth out that fold line with your hands, it'll crease enough on its own that you don't need to iron it. And then if you want to, you can pin it so it really stays secure. If you don't have straight pins, you can use like binder clips. You could even use paper clips. You can use bobby pins. And when you're doing that, you want to lay the piece of fabric flat on the table that you're working on. Don't try to do too much work just like holding it up in the air, because it'll move too much and get out of line. So if you're gonna pin it, just lay it flat and then put the pins in or put the clips in. You could even like staple it if that's all you have and you want to make sure that it's really secure. You can go ahead and staple it. And then the staples will come out and it won't really damage the fabric. So we're going to start at one end, one short end, and hopefully this is visible in both of these screens. This is tricky, sorry. So we want to imagine that there's a line 1/2 inch from the cut edge. So parallel to the cut edge, imagine there's a line, and that's going to be your stitch line. Okay, so this is the cut edge, and then down here is the fold. So we're gonna essentially make a tube, and that 1/2 inch space in sewing is called the seam allowance, because we're allowing room for the seam. If you're a more advanced sewer, you could take that up to like 1/4 inch, but I wouldn't go smaller than that. So if you want to, again, like you can lay this flat, you can get your ruler out and just like a regular pencil, and you can go ahead and like lightly draw a 1/2 inch line in to help when you're stitching. And again, we're going to turn this back inside out so it has a clean finish and you won't be able to see it. So whatever you got to do to feel like confident and secure, like do it so that you get a nice finished product and you feel like proud of it. So I'm going to start my stitch like really close to the short edge. If you want to come in a little bit further, if that makes you more comfortable, like feel free, but I wouldn't come in more than like 1/2 inch. So we're going 1/2 inch from that long cut edge for our seam allowance, and then 1/2 inch inward max. You know, I would bring it a little closer if you can. So I'm going to start there, and then the stitch that we're doing is called a running stitch, and it's literally just, if you can do this, or if you've done like paper weaving, any concept in your mind that is going to remind you of like, okay, over, under, that's all that running stitch is. So basically, we have if we're looking at our fabric sideways, the stitching is going to go like this, up and down through the fabric. And so I'll do a few stitches and show you. So I'm going to start my first stitch Let me do it the other way so you can see. And I've got the knot in the tail of my thread, so it's not going to pull all the way through. There are other ways to start it. And if you know those ways and you prefer that as like a cleaner finish, go for it. Okay, so you can see my knot there. Sorry, 2 screens. And that's secure, so it's not gonna pull through. And I'm gonna do a really big fat stitch so that you can just see it really clearly. So this is a stitch that's about 1/2 inch long, which is really wide. So you see I started here and I went under, and then I came back through, and then I went back out to the back. So I'm going to keep doing that. I don't recommend you actually sew holding this up the way that I am, but I'm just doing this for like demonstration. So and that's very awkward. That's why I don't do that. So you can see the needle is showing you where the next stitch is really came up and went back down to the other side of my fabric tube here. So that's one stitch basically. And again, this is very wide. If you can get your stitching smaller than this, I recommend it. But if this is like a comfortable size for you, go for it. It's okay. I'm going to show you the size of the stitch that is like what I would recommend. And if you can go even smaller than this, like rock on. So this is about, I'm going to do about 1/4 inch stitch. So you can see it's about half the length of that longer stitch, and that's pretty good. You can check it with a ruler if you want, just so you can kind of eyeball it better, but don't worry about it being like a precise measurement. That's not the part that matters. It's just that once we're going to flip this inside out, and the spaces in between are going to create gaps. So the smaller the gap, the better, of course. So you can see the difference of the stitch length. This is about 1/4 inch, and that's what I recommend. If you can only manage about 1/2 inch, don't sweat it. That's perfectly okay. And again, if you can get smaller than this, so much the better. And you will get, better. You'll be able to control the fabric and the needle and thread better with practice. So that's something you can work toward if you're interested in, doing more sewing. And of course, then if you have a sewing machine and you know how to use it, or you want to learn how to use it, you can just change the settings, and it will take care of that for you. And this is a much faster process, but I think it's understanding the concepts of hand sewing helps you be a better sewer on a machine as well. So they both kind of work together. So that's a basic running stitch. And then what we're doing, like I said, we're creating basically a fabric tube. So we're going to continue our stitch line all the way down along that 1/2 inch seam allowance that we're leaving, that imaginary line, or the actual pencil line if you went ahead and penciled that in. And then when we get to the other end, we're going to do a similar knot here so that end is secure. And then we're going to move on to the next step, which I will show you in the class, and we'll do it all together. And I'll demonstrate each step, and I can repeat it if you need. And then you'll get your finished scrunchie. And that can be your sample that you use, and you can look back at it if you want to like take it apart again to see like, oh, how do we make this? I want to make more. That's what is great about just kind of practicing and doing samples, even if it's, fabric and thread that is like fugly. It's just good for practicing your technique. So again, if you want to learn how to make scrunchies and learn basic hand sewing and sewing concepts, get in touch with me. I'm having an online class Monday, Martin Luther King Day at 2 p.m. Eastern. I will attempt to do it live, but for sure, just send me your email so I can get you the link to the online platform that I'm going to be using. All right, thanks for watching. If you have more questions or comments, if you want to do the class and you need a supply kit, if you're in the greater Hartford area, just reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get some supplies before the class on Monday. All right, have a great Friday. What is today? No, it's Thursday. Oh my gosh, pandemic. Who knows what day it is, but we'll do arts and crafts Monday for sure. All right. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Have a great Thursday.